So let's take a look at the Handshake Improvement Proposals. Fauci has done great work cleaning up this website and making it accessible and making it look great. And you can find it at hsd-dev.org/HIPs. And this is, kind of the front end for it. And we can look at some proposals that already have been merged. These have been, discussed by developers, and I'll show you how and where, and have been assigned a number. Some of these are not done yet, indicated by the word draft. Some of these we're already using, like HIP1 is already being used in ShakeDex.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right, and we mentioned wallet addresses earlier, and Fauci has an idea about that called HIP2. So where these come into play is and none of these are actually protocol changes yet. We haven't actually had anybody propose a handshake improvement proposal that would change the way HSD works or change the way that all handshake software needs to work. I do have some ideas for this that can optimize the network, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. These are all basically application level standards. So for non-interactive name swaps, this was an idea started by Mark Tyneway and then built out by myself and Kurumi Amari and a few other developers. But basically back, before mainnet launched, Mark Tyneway had this idea that you can swap a name for a payment atomically, and we could do it in this cool way. And so he wrote up this specification on how it can be done, given the protocol rules that we have. So if you want to sell a name for Handshake, do you have to do it this way? No. The fact that we have a standard is cool because it means ShakeDex can look at this standard and be like, I'm going to implement that. And that's exactly what happened. It was actually kind of insane. We had this HIP published and the specification written, and Kurumi Amari came in and was like, I'm just going to make this. And I mean, that is that's awesome. That's what we want to see. This is some people have ideas, other people build it. That is super cool. And the fact that it's standardized means anybody can make a ShakeDex and add their own features. And the ShakeDex auctions can be interoperable with, whatever. If Flamingo Handshake, for example, wanted to adopt this, they could. And it could be compatible with ShakeDex, and people can post their auctions on both platforms, or, pick one at ShakeDex and Flamingo Handshake could compete, that kind of thing. So that's why it's important to have these standards. Awesome. If you want to propose, if you want to propose an HIP, this is the repository for the HIPs. Let's see, I'll go back here. So this is the code for the website I just showed you. Yeah. And you can see there's some pull requests. Anybody can open a pull request. Here is a HIP that I've started that has not been merged yet because it's not done. We're still working out some details. But this is, my decentralized, Dane for decentralized naming systems idea that myself and Buffer are working on. The idea is to make a limited version of Dane that we can get browsers to adopt. So as we're working on this, here Brandon Dees has offered a comment, and people can discuss this. So they can look at this proposal and be like, I don't like this idea. Let's do it a little bit differently. And we can have the discussion here on GitHub or, in any channel like the developer Telegram channel. And once we're all happy with it, then we can merge this, and then we have a standard, and then people like Brave, Firefox, Chrome, Puma, Handy Browser, whatever, can be like, this is a great standard, we're going to adopt it. There's a lot of interesting features on GitHub. If you're new to GitHub, if you have an idea for Handshake, but you're not a developer, you still want to propose something, this is not really a terrible place to do it. You can open an issue. An issue is a comment, or here, I've said this is something we need to fix. And I'm not offering any code. I'm just basically saying there's a problem, there's an issue, So if you have an idea, you can be like, hey, why don't we have a HIP that explains wallet naming? Go ahead and open an issue, and we can have a discussion. We can also have an actual discussion on GitHub. Some community members have talked about, this is a great example. We wanted some type of signaling mechanism so that if I own a name and I want everybody to know that it's for sale, how do I do that? And this would include ShakeDex and all the other auction systems, or maybe you don't want to do a ShakeDex style auction. You just want to sell the name directly to somebody. So we're trying to figure out the best way to do this. And I forget this guy's actual name. Peter. So Peter started this idea. Fauci made some comments. I made some comments. I don't think there's anybody else on this thread, but we're trying to have a discussion on what is the best way for a name owner to signal that they want to sell their name. Ideally, this conversation bears fruit, and the community says, like, okay, we figured it out. We want to do a special transaction type or a certain text record with this format, and then we can go write an HIP from here. So, ideas can come from anywhere. I think Peter is actually a developer. He understands some technical issues, but you don't have to be a developer to ask a question or to have an idea. Just, come in a Telegram channel and ask something, or start a discussion here on the HIPS GitHub page, and people can help, put it together, bring it to fruition. If they think it's a bad idea, don't be hurt. Maybe you can find other people who think it's a good idea. They can write the code for it. You can have an alternative full node. And like I said, like there's no, the gatekeepers are an illusion,
Got it. That's cool. Thanks for this. This has really been helpful. So I think, so once it's approved, like it has to be, somebody has to do it, right? Or I mean, it's approved. Well, I mean, what is approved actually? What is consensus or voting, or how does, how
Right.
do we confirm that enough people want this?
Yeah.
Do it.
That's, incredibly hard, especially because we have there's a small community, and there's an even smaller community of developers. And I can even show you, like, this is github.com/handshake-org. This is where the HIPs are. This is where HSD is. This is where the documentation for the full node is, the handshake.org website, the ledger code, airdrop code, Urkel code. This is like the, this is where everything is at. If you have a problem with any piece of Handshake software, it's likely in here. So, we can take a look at HSD. And so, for example, really quick, like I can show you Namebase HQ. This is Namebase's version of HSD. Okay, they have different, some things in here are different, 36 commits behind. So they've added stuff to their version of HSD that is not, for example, in my version of HSD. This commit updated document reference to git clone. I don't know what that is. That's not in the version of HSD I run. Get work RPC is. So they've changed things mostly in the wallet because they handle so much wallet activity. They needed to change things. So if the community decided that this is the version of the full node that everybody wants to run, they can do that. Anybody can have their own fork of HSD. GitHub is telling me right now that 180 users have forked HSD. I don't know if they've all made modifications or not, but again, like the code is open source. You can do whatever you want with it. We can take a quick look at things like contributors. This shows the amount of commits that users have added to HSD. It's a bit deceptive. For example, Indutney didn't really contribute to HSD. He contributed to Bcoin and back here in 2014, but he has enough commits that he's actually on the list. JJ obviously did all this work. Mark Tyneway, myself, Boy Manura, and here's Javed and Fernando Fauci is on this list. Sean Kilpatty, Raf from Namebase. So and there's Anthony from Namebase and Jackie from KyoCon. So you can kind of see like who the contributors are. What this list doesn't show you is like who can actually merge pull requests, which is JJ, myself, I think Boymania can, and there might be one other person. For some reason, that's not public. But so if you want to, if you have a problem with HSD, you can open an issue in HSD and say that something doesn't work, And we can have discussions in HSD too. And if you want to change something in HSD, you can open a pull request. And so this is where it comes. This is an important thing about governance. Like, I'll admit I vote for president for the United States in every presidential election. I very rarely vote for my city supervisor or like mayor. I'm a bad community member. And when we talk about community involvement, like it kind of comes down to that. Like if you want to be involved, like you gotta be involved. Like you can wait and vote for president, like wait for there's a huge issue like the block size and pick a side and then tweet about it. But there's little issues that are happening all the time, and you can be a part of that if you want to pay attention to these little issues and review pull requests, or like look at HIPs or come up with your own HIP and like, get involved. Like, it's there. It's not always glamorous, like voting for president, where it affects everybody, but sometimes like those little things are like the most important ways to get involved. And those have come up in some community discussions before. So for example, the Handshake-web repo is the code for handshake.org. And there have been multiple proposals to remove the word experimental from the website. I think there's been 3 issues in here. And the community has discussed them. And, like, this is the kind of thing where I am one of the people that can approve or deny this change. But I wouldn't do it unless there was some reasonable discussion about it. I feel like that's especially important for handshake.org, which is like the founder's website, and I don't really want to change it that much. I only recently got access to merge things to this repo. So even though my opinion about the word experimental, I think I was very clear about it, in this pull request. If there was overwhelming support from the community to take the word experimental out, I would merge it. I don't want to be a tyrant. There's no need for that. If people were like, oh, I want to take out the signature verification from HSD, it slows down my computer. Even if there was vast community support from that, like, I just need to be a responsible maintainer and not merge that because it's unsafe. So, it's tough, but it's hard. I don't want there to be leaders, but, there kind of are, but you don't really have to run their code. And the community discussion about the HNS Twitter, I think, was another interesting example. This is obviously.
I even left some comments. Not so active. I think first time I left a comment on GitHub, but yeah, that was a lot of discussion on that, about should it be active, who should be the one maintaining the handshake, because you have the HNS username, and there was a lot of discussion.
Yeah. So GitHub's telling me there were 28 participants on this issue and 66 comments. That's great. This might be the most involved community discussion we've had about something that affects the whole community, I think. And it's, it happened to take place on GitHub. It could have been a Reddit thread, I guess. It could have been a Telegram channel. GitHub is totally accessible. Nobody is like banned or blocked from accessing GitHub. Anybody can leave a comment here and they stay forever. It's not like Telegram or Discord where the messages disappear after a while, or in Reddit where things can get buried. So I feel like even though this issue doesn't affect any code in HSD or on the actual website, it was kind of a good place to do it. And so, we have this long discussion. Some people think that the Twitter should be deleted. Some people think that it should be replaced by an AI, or like that there should be some specific rules about it, so that whoever does have access to the Twitter handle is restricted by basically a protocol where they can only tweet certain things. And then my idea was that we could open a pull request to the Handshake website with a set of rules that whoever has control over the HNS Twitter has to follow, or we would like them to follow, is the best way to say it, because you can't tell people what to do outside of the blockchain. And I think that's kind of where the discussion ended up. And I haven't made a pull request yet, and anybody still can. If you feel passionate about this, Mike, or anybody on this list, like open a pull request, take a look at this issue, or if you were involved in this issue, open a pull request to this repo that adds a file called twitter.html that explains the rules. And you can say you're allowed to retweet Kyokon and Sky Include and HNS Fund, but you're not allowed to retweet Brantley from Ethereum. Okay, whatever. And those rules will be on there. And hopefully, we just have to hope that whoever agrees, whoever's in control of the HNS Twitter account, will agree to those rules. And if the community wants to change those rules, then you can open a pull request and change them literally on that page. Hi, I'm a new handshake company. I would like to be retweeted by HNS. Here's a pull request adding my name to the list. And then people in the community, like the kind of people I'm talking about that actually vote for mayor and city supervisor, this is it's a small thing. It's not a huge deal, but they will look at that and be like, okay, it looks like you actually are new to the community, but your project is important enough to the community. And yes, @HNS should retweet you if your tweets follow our protocol. So, there's community governance, representation governance, and this issue is still open. I think the HNS Twitter might be pretty quiet right now because this discussion has happened. But if somebody really wants to be the champion of this, like submit a pull request to this website, and that way the community can take control of this asset.
Got it. Okay, so man, this has been great. I know I've learned quite a few things. If I could just selfishly like sneak in one, well, I mean, maybe it could be another video too, or I think Fauci's also has that hip too, but the wallet address is to a name. I mean, it seems like something that I don't know, I believe would be very helpful for the community. I think other naming protocols are getting users or attracting people because of the wallet address feature.
Right.
So I would like to try to support or propose that if it's already existing. I don't know if HIP2 covers that. I think that's what this is.
Yeah. So HIP2 does cover that. And let's see, I think I am Fernando. You know what? I have it in Firefox.
Yeah, I know. I've used that. I did that once on the Handshake Mercenary Forum. He was asking somebody to pay his address, but you have to type it in, right?
Right. So this, here is
a long ISO.
Oh, he wants to download it in text edit. I don't know why it does that. Okay, there we go. So
yeah, there it is. I've seen
Fernando Fauci's Handshake address using HIP2. This is a website that is secured by Dane. So it's we don't need to talk about Dane, but it's secure. I'm certain that this address is the address that Fernando, the owner of the I am Fernando Handshake name, wants me to send him Handshake. And then we can do the same with, I think he has a BTC address here too. Yeah. Oh, not SegWit. That's old. So we have a system of wallet naming and Handshake. The thing that is nice about this is that it's accessible with a web browser, with an HTTP request. That software everybody already has on their computer. It's very easy to integrate. It doesn't need to do DNS. It doesn't need to ask. You don't need a copy of the blockchain. It's simple. The other nice thing about this is because it's running on basically a web server, he can update this address as often as he wants. He can change it every single minute. He can change it every time somebody reloads this page. It can get updated. That's why HIP2 uses, and we discussed this, and we talked about adding addresses to text records on the blockchain, and you could do that too. You'd still need to verify DNSSEC. You need a DNS resolver to get that address out. I mean, things about like the blockchain is slow, right? It can take up to 6 hours if you add a text record to your name on Handshake. It could take up to 6 hours for that to be resolvable. And it's a static address. It'd be hard to change, and we can do better. We don't need to argue right now about address reuse or like static addresses or something like that. I believe that address reuse is not good for privacy, and we can do better with a scheme like this, better than ENS. ENS, if you want to change your address on ENS, what's it cost? It costs gas. You're not going to do it all that time. You got a static address. You apply for a job at ENS, and Brantley can look at all your trades on Uniswap because your Twitter handle is tied to your Ethereum wallet.
Yeah,
right? So all that stuff, but that's not really what we're talking about right now. You're asking about like governance, and if you want to propose something different from HIP2, you're welcome to. We can have another HIP with a different. This doesn't have to be the only way that people get walleted cryptocurrency addresses from Handshake names. It's nice to have a standard though, because then everybody can do the same thing. That's the most important thing. If we have a standard like this, then we can go out there and get Bread Wallet and Wasabi Wallet and Bob Wallet and blockchain.com and BitGo and everybody to use the same standard. ENS, Brantley's always bragging about their hundreds of wallet integrations. That's because they have a standard. how you can get from an ENS name to a wallet address. So, if you don't think this is sufficient, you're welcome to propose something. Come into the chat and we'll talk about your idea and maybe you'll convince us, maybe we'll convince you or something, or you could go to the HIPS repo and open a pull request. You don't have to do HIP2. You can write a wallet software that does, something else entirely. If you want to start a discussion about wallet naming, I'd say maybe go to the HIPS repo. Where did I have it? It's in here somewhere. Go to the HIPS repo and start a discussion here. Or you can open an issue and you can just do new issue and say like, I don't like it too, and then say I think it could be faster because Ethereum is faster, whatever. It's open and no one's gonna hate you or block you or kick you out of the network for like starting a discussion or having an idea. I talk to lots of people who aren't developers that have great ideas about Handshake, like HIP5, the whole idea of putting subdomains on Ethereum, like that's something that Mike Carson wanted, and he has some development experience, but we talk a lot, and it wasn't just Mike. A lot of people wanted to do some type of decentralized subdomains, and I helped that idea happen. I don't even think it's really necessarily a great idea using Ethereum as a decentralized name server, but I helped them write the code and bring the idea to fruition. And this is called HIP5 now, and there's a standard for it. And so what I'm saying is it's open to everybody. If you got a good enough idea, a developer will help you write it. I can help you write it. If you think HIP2 needs to be more flexible for certain use cases, like come on in and tell us what your use case is, and we can help you bring it to fruition.
Maybe there just needs to be an interface built on top, but I don't know how to, like you didn't even remember the URL to get the address from that.
Right.
We remember, I remember the I am Fernando, but I had no,
right.
Maybe it has to be an app. Somebody has to build an app, but I guess, I'm starting to use Ethereum more. I mean, I'm studying NFTs on Ethereum and, look at Twitter. Everybody's starting to update their name to ev.eth, because I had people transfer me an NFT by just saying skyclude.eth. I have that and it worked. And it was a small novelty, and we know, and other ones, I think a lot of people are buying these because of wallet addresses,
Right.
So,
but you don't know how, or do you? I mean, like the fact that I couldn't remember the URL,
so did you
that doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. So here's a video that Fauci made of him
I don't think it worked
using HIP2.
I tried to do this.
Right. So this is not complete, and actually he has a bounty here. He's offering 400 HNS. So he has the standard written. He has not integrated it into Bob Wallet yet. Apparently he has made at least a proof of concept where I don't know why that he didn't open this as a pull request. Maybe it wasn't clean or something. But look what he's doing. He types in proof of concept, he hits enter, and the address is just there. You don't need to know how it works. You don't need to know that it's verifying Dane or DNSSEC, or that it's using HTTP instead of DNS. You don't need to know that address changes every time you request it. It just works.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I don't. It doesn't have to be a static address that like you said earlier, somebody else could just snoop in and see all my. It'd be, I would agree. It's better. I could just change any address I want. I'm the owner of that name. I want it to be this address.
Right.
I like that.
The problem with HIP2 is it requires a name server, which like a lot of people who are trying to do Handshake stuff are realizing that all the cool Handshake stuff has to happen off chain. You can't put your website on Handshake. You need a web server. You can't put your subdomains on Handshake. You need a name server. And, we can talk about that more too. I think that's an important design concept for scalability and like that. But, in the future, somebody could offer, Namebase could offer HIP2 for all the names. Basically in the entire blockchain. Bob Wallet could maybe even, or Kyokan could even offer, or Impervious or Mike Michelini could even offer a service where you provide name server or web server support to users to host records like this, and they'd be signed, so you wouldn't be able to manipulate them. They'd be signed by the owner. But so if you like what you saw on that proof of concept here, Fauci has offered 400 Handshake. If it's important to you, Mike, throw another 400 on there, and we'll go back to the developer community and be like, now there's an 800 HNS bounty, and it'll get done.
Got it.